What's going on, everybody? Listen, welcome to this episode of this amazing show. Today I'm excited, man. I got my girl. I always refer to her. She got Ashley in Africa. But listen, man, thank you for being here. I'm excited. Glad to welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And where are we currently?
In Johannesburg, South Africa.
South Africa, all the way over the ocean.
All the way over the ocean, even though at some point we were in each other's neck of the woods.
Yeah, we didn't even know that we lived in the same city because you were in Atlanta, right? You were in like the suburbs, and I was in Buckhead, Atlanta for like the last
I
5.
was in Brookhaven. Like, I was still in the perimeter. Don't just throw me out
That's a
the
bougie area.
well, so is Buckhead. Don't play.
A little bit. We're a little bougie, but I am so excited to have you on. I want to have a conversation. Um,
Yeah.
Really about everything international, like, because a lot of people that are watching this don't think that they should take risks, like traveling international. And I always like to say this, the world is much smaller than people realize, right? Because you can get somewhere by plane, right? The people that you connect with in a whole nother country, you never know who you're going to be connected with business wise, personal wise, everything,
Right.
right? And I always say my favorite saying is we're living in one of the greatest times in history where you get to do business online.
Yes.
People can buy your product in another country.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't talk about the success of what it takes to really build an international business. And you've done that successfully. You have an audience in Africa and you also have an audience in America. So let's start off. I want to hear
In
your
Europe,
story.
in Australia, out of Asia, in South America.
I didn't mean to leave out, the other countries that
That's all through video marketing, right? Through YouTube, my YouTube platform,
yep.
which is viewed in over 25 countries or
A
something
little brag. Go ahead,
like that. But I didn't envision it this way.
Yeah.
I just knew that I wanted to do something different. I had a pretty successful career in marketing, tech, economic development for 20 plus years. But I just knew that that wasn't the only thing that I could do, but I didn't know how it was gonna look.
Yeah.
And so it just started out as deciding, like, I want something different. I don't know how it's gonna look, but for my Christians, my faithful people, spiritual people, like, that's the true testament to faith. It's a true testament to belief. It's a true testament to knowing that if you have a desire in your heart and that you have some spiritual center, um, yeah, that if you believe in that, you will be guided and you will be led in that same direction.
Definitely.
So it just happened to be that we're sitting here across the ocean on another continent and I'm able to say that. But that's all really because I decided I wanted something different. And despite the fear, despite me kind of being worried about what people were going to think, and despite me being afraid to fail or afraid to succeed, I just kept doing it over and over and over.
Yeah.
And yeah, it led to us connecting virtually and then in person,
Yeah.
to be having this conversation today.
Yeah. So talk about that. What were people saying when I'm interested to know, like, when you had this idea of like, I'm gonna, go overseas and I'm gonna do business international. I want to do this digital business. I'm interested to hear about the thought process and what were people saying?
Okay, what are people still saying? Because they still have much to say about it.
They do.
I mean, so I always wanted to work internationally, right? I thought I was going to be an international diplomat in my 60s, doing economic development for countries stricken by disaster, natural disaster. Like, this was in my head from in my 20s studying economics. I thought that that was going to be my way into international business.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was going to come after being burnt out, working, 60 hours a week, making six figures, having all of the things. I didn't know it was going to come this way, but I always had an idea that I was going to work internationally. I just thought it was going to be 60 years old, grays, and, PhDs behind me
Of course.
because we're we are taught or programmed to believe that in order for us to do things, we need to be approved by institutions or certain people or certain organizations to tell us that we can do that thing.
Yeah.
So we have to first give ourselves the permission, right? And yeah, people were very skeptical, right? Like they were just like, why are you going to do that? Why you got to go over there to do that? Are you going to get sick? Are you, going to live in a hut? What are you going to eat? Like, isn't it? Meanwhile, we're in a beautiful studio with power, air conditioning, sitting in one of the most luxurious developments in all of Africa and potentially, even the world.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't know how it was gonna look. Honestly, I just knew I wanted something different, and I led with that desire.
Yeah.
And as a person that was raised in the Christian religion, but then also became super empowered on my own spiritual path, I knew that there was no way that I could have this desire in my heart and it not be something that I was meant to achieve.
Yeah.
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 So I started. I was terrified, and every time I was terrified, I did it anyway. That led to me sharing on YouTube. It took me a year and a half to start sharing. I had a friend, she was a video editor. She was like, "You need to get on YouTube." I was like, "Nobody wants to hear what I have to say." Um, but that was a limiting belief from me being told as a child that, "Oh, I talk too much," and, all of those things. And yeah, people really started to get interested. But I did know that Africa was the next frontier for economic growth, period, because of the population, because of the wealth, because of the opportunity for development.
Mhm.
Um, and I did know that I hadn't seen anybody online that looked like me or that had my similar story. So I knew that there would be something that people would be interested in. I just didn't think it was going to take the magnitude of what it has taken, which is hundreds of thousands of people that are of African
They
descent that live in America, but also like African born
Yeah.
continental born Africans that have moved abroad for opportunities, education, or that are also looking at me as a relatable voice to be like, wait, I, okay, it's not as bad as I was told it was as a child, or maybe I don't even have to go back to the same country I'm from. I could still explore Africa. With ease and in another way. And so
Yeah.
these are kind of the messages that people have adapted to from hearing me say. That's the relatability that I've been able to share. And from that, I built a business around it,
Yeah.
helping people travel, move, and do business on the African continent with a little bit more ease.
I love it. I love it. See, we got to unpack all of that
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people, and the theme of even this show is really centered around that you're gonna have to really know and get out of your comfort zone and box to do business internationally, to travel internationally. So the next question is like, why Africa? Because you chose Africa. There's so many different countries that as they call us expats, right?
Mhm.
Traveling abroad. I had my friends. I lived in Mexico for like almost a year. I loved it. I love the beaches. I still shout out to Mexico. I still miss Mexico.
Yeah.
Uh, Still miss Mexico, but that was like my getaway. And we talked about this on your show where I was a comfort traveler, right? Because it was only 2 hours from where we lived in Atlanta, going over to Mexico. It was super sunny and I loved it. You're 17 hours away. And when I talk to people about it, I say, are you gonna visit? And they're like, that's a long way, like that's a long plane ride.
Yeah.
But why did you specifically choose Africa to kind of build your foundation being from America? Why did you choose Africa?
So it wasn't really in the plan. Africa wasn't really in my peripheral. Um, but I had done this activity with my therapist. Shout out to therapists. Shout out to people who go to therapy. Because it really unrooted a lot of things that I had just kept suppressed because I was just operating and functioning and surviving in a system. So I did this activity with her where I listed out my values. And one of my values was adventure. but I hadn't had anything that was showing in my bank account or on my calendar that lined up with adventure. So I had to check that and be like, is this really a value or is this just something I haven't explored? And I had traveled to many countries. I think at the time I had been to 15 or so countries, but I had never really experienced Africa. So I had a friend who was making plans to travel here. And I asked her about it. We had a conversation in May, I think, of 2020 when the whole world was shut down and everybody was reevaluating life as we knew it. And in June, I decided, okay, cool, I'm going
I'm leaving.
because I'm leaving because
Yep.
planes fly there. So they must fly back. So if it doesn't work out, I can just come back. And honestly, it wasn't that at that point where I knew mentally that I was gonna move.
Yeah.
My spirit knew because I was selling everything, I was changing beneficiaries on my accounts, I was making sure my bank knew I would be traveling. Um, but I did have it in my mind that if it doesn't work out, I can always come back. But it was very soon after I landed in East Africa, Tanzania, that I was like, "Wait, this is where I need to be, at least right now."
So Tanzania was your first country
Tanzania was my first
that
country
you visited?
that I visited and ended up being there for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was me really living out that value of adventure, going to Marangu, the foothills of Kilimanjaro. I didn't hike Kilimanjaro, but I did go to the gate, so I was on the mountain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like swimming in the really ice cold, um, waters of the Kilimanjaro with the waterfall, also swimming in like the hot springs of, that area in Tanzania, swimming in the Indian, what I like to call African Ocean, in Zanzibar, just everything. Going to Arusha National Park for a walking safari and seeing buffaloes and giraffes, like right there.
Yeah.
I really, I was living out that value. And that's when so much came to me and I was able to tap back into my creativity. I was able to tap back into my inner child. I was able to feel a sense of peace, a sense of safety, a sense of belonging, reconnection. And that was when I think a lot of things were just kind of peeled away. A lot of the layers that we have to carry, a lot of the armor that we have to wear in countries like the US
Mhm.
as Black women. I can't speak for other countries,
Mhm.
but that armor that we have to carry, that we have to, maintain a certain facade, get it done, persevere, and, by any means necessary. I didn't have to carry that anymore. I was shedding all of that. And because of that, I was able to receive direction, downloads, confirmation of who I really was, who I was truly meant to be, my nature, not necessarily my nurture. And that's when I realized, like, oh, other people might want to experience this too. I'm talking to my friends, I'm talking to my friends that are moms, also very high performing women in their careers. And I'm like, yo, like there's another way. Like we could do this different.
It's different.
We could
Yeah.
do this differently. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to live this way.
Yeah.
And that was the really the catalyst of saying like I want to share this experience with other people. I want other people to know that you can actually just take a break and do something different and be reminded that this is not the only way that
Absolutely.
we have to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's turned into Ashley in Africa, that's turned into the Africa Investors Academy, and that's turned into the Freedom Formula, which really teaches people how they can earn more money, they can work less hours, and they can spend more time doing the things that they love with people that bring them joy. And you can do that anywhere in the world, having time freedom and location freedom.
I love it. I love that story because what it does, a lot of people don't know is that it shows you. I like to say like when we watch, episodes like
Mhm.
this and we get inspired through trainings, you're kind of like borrowing somebody's belief, right? It's like like all you gotta do is just borrow somebody else's belief. It's like
Yeah.
a belief that I had. Like when I saw people that I was like how do they do that? How did they build a business? How did they speak? How did they whatever skill sets? It's like, okay, I don't have to be that now. I can just borrow that person's belief,
Yeah.
right? So I told you this on your last show. You're fearless, right? Remember,
Mhm.
but you were like, I'm not fearless. But I said, yes, every time you face a challenge,
Yeah.
you become fearless. You have less fear
Yeah.
than you normally do.
Yeah.
But back up for a second as we kind of, so we're on the journey of you building a business because
Mhm.
most people, when they travel, they're going through the wait and exhale phase, right? They're
Yes.
right. It's like I want to travel,
I did that, yeah.
but now you have now it's the best of both worlds because now you came to some realization. I'm interested to hear that part where okay, you came to the land like the first place I visited was Nairobi, Kenya,
Mhm.
which I love Nairobi, Kenya. And now you're on this journey, right? So
Mhm.
now you travel, you feel inspired. How did that turn into a business that you feel like, man, I can have a business internationally, and obviously it's not location based? Talk to me about that.
So that it took a while. There was some bumps along the road. So what I didn't share was at the time when I was making these decisions, I was clinically diagnosed as depressed and anxious. I was high performing depression. I think that's what the clinical diagnosis was. So my therapist is like, listen, Ashley, you just need to have radical acceptance. And I was like, what does that mean? I need to just accept like that life is this way and just kind of keep taking pills,
Yeah.
And that's essentially what it was. I mean, it is an actual psychiatrist definition of how to get people really through some of these deep, dark moments.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Again, being very connected to my faith at the time, I was like, I don't know about that. That don't sound right to me. So let me tap into this value system work. But I was able to use that time and that diagnosis to my advantage to say, okay, well, I'm about to go do some healing. Then I'm about to do the things that I need to do. But I'd always had this entrepreneurial spirit. I was a serial entrepreneur, essentially. I had started businesses, sold businesses, um, started businesses again, stopped kind of this stop and go experience. So even when I was in Tanzania, on this journey of just healing and taking it easy, I would see all of this opportunity. And I did do my research. I studied, you know, Tanzania was one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It had a position where it fed 5 other landlocked countries, goods and services, well, goods from the port, from Asia and other parts of the world. So I knew it was a strategic location. And at the time, the late great president, Dr. John Pombe Magufuli, was very intentional about sovereignty as a nation, very intentional about Pan-Africanism, very intentional about its people being self-sustaining and independent.
Yeah.
So I love that from a leadership perspective. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily a Pan-Africanist, but I was about the liberation and the sustainability of Black people globally through entrepreneurship. So that's always been a core mission and a core value of mine. I kind of looked at different opportunities. I thought I don't want to be around people. So I want to do something completely different because I was just burnt out. I wasn't operating in my highest self, I will say. So I was looking at different opportunities. I started a coffee business. It failed. Um,
Was that back in the States or was
but
that
yeah.
oh, so you actually started a business in Tanzania?
Yeah, I did. I started a coffee business. I was like, "Oh, I'm an expert coffee." I didn't know nothing about coffee. I didn't know that it was super capital intensive. You needed to really understand the harvesting it was a lot. So, I failed. I lost money doing that, but it didn't stop me. I said, "Okay, I definitely don't wanna go back to that life." Like, I know where that life leads. I have all these other friends that are super high performing, six-figure, seven-figure earners, but
Mhm.
they're all on the brink of the same breakdown that so many people have, and we're seeing it. We see it daily.
Mhm.
We're like, "What happened?" No, like, it's a kind of that's the path that you subscribe to when you trade time for money.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's really no other way. That's kind of the journey. So I knew that these are not the things, oftentimes people ask us what we want and we just know what we don't want. So
Yeah.
instead, I started to work towards what do I want? I want a life where I can work less, travel more, spend more time with my children. I want to be a full time mom.
Mhm.
What does that look like? And it was what I was experiencing during the sabbatical time that I had taken in Tanzania. And I knew I also don't need to make a lot of money doing this.
Mhm.
I've made way more money, but was working way more, showing up a lot less for my family and for my girls. So, um, yeah, it was just a decision. And I know I keep saying that, decide, but it really comes down to knowing what you want. What is important to you? What do you want life to look like at the end of this journey? Because that's the definite. We know we have limited time on this earth. What do we want to look up at the end of our life and say, this was what I was known for. This is what I did. This is what I added value to the world, to the people around me. And I wanted to be a healthy mom. I wanted to be something that advocated for entrepreneurship for others and someone that gave people an opportunity to live differently than they thought they could ever live,
Mhm.
ever.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a journey. So now, fast forward, how did like we in South Africa right now, right? So your journey went to Tanzania you moved from Atlanta to Tanzania, right? And then now you float between South Africa, like I float between Kenya and South Africa.
Yes.
Um Talk about, and if you want, you can combine it all together talking about because you have some digital businesses,
Yeah.
right? So you went from the coffee shop physical, then you said, "Okay, I need to kinda," you're sharing your story on YouTube. Now you got 80,000 subscribers, people from South Africa follow you, people from all over the world follow
Yeah.
you. But I noticed when we did our interview, there was a lot of South Africans, there was a lot of people from America.
Yeah.
And you've kinda like I like to say, you've kinda blended this world that people can't really do, right? It's like a skill set. I don't know if you noticed, but it's hard to do that, right? Because people don't know how to blend both worlds. But how did you get to now doing business in South Africa and also your digital journey?
Yeah. So I'll take a step back. In Tanzania, one of the things that again, limiting belief system was I'm not going to make it here. I don't have the capital and I don't have the language
Mhm,
down. Like I can speak Swahili, Kidogo Sana, but it's not like to the level that I felt like I needed to be able to speak in order to properly do business. So I had made some relationships there though, and somebody wanted me to put together a retreat. So I found an amazing tourism expert. Um, and she did all of the planning, everything, and then the person backed out from the retreat. But then I felt bad. I was like, "Ah, I've had her do all this work. Um, let's just run with it." So we decided to do this investor summit where we would essentially teach people how to do business and how to move to Tanzania and the opportunity that I was seeing. And I had no idea how it was going to look. But that was something that I said, okay, I kind of fell into because I was helping someone else and they didn't come through. So I ended up jumping into that. And we're now having our third one coming up next month in Tanzania. So I do have that active business that's there because I love Tanzania. It's beautiful. There's so many opportunities, beautiful country, beautiful people. Swahili is the number one spoken language on the continent. So it's also a very strategic place
I
to
don't
be.
yeah, and I don't know to cut you off, like, I remember when I was in Nairobi, and everybody in Nairobi also speaks Swahili. So I started learning all the languages, and then I came to South Africa, and I was like, "Wait, nobody speaks
Swahili here,
Swahili
really.
in South Africa." So I was completely because I had spent all this time learning, so you have to be adaptable as
Yeah,
you go to these different
for sure.
countries to know.
And so during that time of being in Tanzania, I started seeing videos of South Africa. And I was like, wait, this looks very familiar. And I was honestly missing a lot of the luxuries and like amenities that we have in the States, and South Africa has all of that and more. So when came here, I was like, bet everybody speaks English. My skill sets transfer very well. If I have to go back to work, and a strong if I have to go back to work for someone, I knew I could come here and make it shake.
Yeah.
I could make it do something. So that's why I chose South Africa, but it took me longer to come here from a preparation perspective than it actually did for me to move to Tanzania. But I always had this desire to do bi-coastal living when I lived in the US. I worked in Atlanta and I lived in Atlanta, but I worked in New York. So I traveled a lot and I've always traveled for my work. That was a thing that had happened early on in my career. So it didn't feel unnatural to do that here because I had a strong connection in Tanzania, strong relationships, and I was encouraged by the people to like maintain those relationships and stay connected.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to do that while I'll also come to a country like South Africa, which was equally as beautiful, provided some of the ease of doing business and living that made it a lot more comfortable
Yeah.
as well, and I've just kind of I'm moving in between the
Good
2,
for.
and
Yeah.
it's ironic because I kind of manifested that. I said, like, "I want a bi-coastal life. I want to be able to have business and land and opportunity in multiple countries," and
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're doing.
And you manifested it.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean, we were talking about that the other day, like, you were just, like, grateful
Mhm.
that you're like, "Wow, I've created this lifestyle."
Yeah.
And same here, I'm just like, "Wow, I'm actually bi-coastal." My mom was saying that the other day. She's like, um, she was just saying, like, "I'm proud of you." And I was like, "Why do you say that?" She's like, because you're doing what I wanted to do, the fear that
Mm,
that I didn't face, which was I wanted to travel, I wanted to meet new people. Cause I tell her all these stories, right? I'm like, and that's even a testament to even anyone watching this that
yeah.
do not let your comfort zone keep you in this place that you feel stuck.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people feel like stuck. You don't have to stay stuck. There's so many opportunities. It's not as scary as people make it, right? Because
No.
when I came to South Africa, when I came to Kenya, sure, there was a culture difference, there was an accent difference, but people were so loving. If you come with the right intention and you come with this open mindedness that
Yeah.
everyone is like you and you love people and you care and you have this openness, then you're gonna get that same love. But if you come with this mindset of I know everything or I'm from this country, so I should have this perks, then you're gonna be pushed out anyway, and you're not gonna feel at home.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
yeah,
Because I'll say it. I mean, this continent, there's a lot that has happened in our history, in our DNA.
mhm,
And this continent, there's a spiritual experience that happened to us, for us, and with us returning. And you have to have that level of intention, openness, um, and yeah, like, you have to be very intentional with this. This life is not for everyone, but
yeah,
for those that it is for, you will literally transcend, like,
you'll be a better person.
you'll be better, you'll
Yeah,
feel better, you'll even look better, you will be able to make a better impact. There's so many things that can happen with the positive intention. But equally, if you come with the other stuff, it's like it will chew you up and spit you out. Thus, you have tons of other content, which I don't really see, but I hear people say, of the worst case scenario. This is what happened to me. So this country is this way, where in actuality, it's got a lot to do with
the
the
person.
person
Yes,
and the energy
energy that
that
you
you
put
came
out.
with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and that you put out there.
I've seen that. I've seen videos where somebody will be like, "South Africa's like this," or "Kenya's like this," and "Tanzania's like this," and I'm like, don't get me wrong, those things happen just like they happen in
Mm.
America, they happen all over the world,
Yep.
but it's mainly about the person. You can't it's like saying, "Oh, somebody's from America is this way,"
Yep.
and that's your limiting beliefs. That's how you are projecting onto what you've seen in media or you've heard from your friends, and I could tell you that every single time, whatever I've heard about any country, right, even outside of Africa, whatever I've heard is typically the opposite
Yep.
of what
Mm,
like, that's why you gotta experience it for yourself
mhm.
because I'll be like, "It's nothing like what I saw."
Right.
is completely different, or the people are completely different. There's some maybe some a few things that I saw was true, but completely different. Um, all right, so I wanna kind of like as we kind of wrap the
Mhm.
episode, but because you have a lot of amazing things going on, and you're so humble. You ain't
Thank
talk about all those things. She ain't talk about all those things, but it's okay.
thank you.
But you have a lot going on. You've been able to have, a channel you're doing like, our episode is at 10,000 plus views now.
Mhm.
Shout out, make sure y'all go watch that episode.
Yeah.
You have
Subscribe
and subscribe to the Ashton Africa channel and this one as well.
for sure.
But you also have I've even was watching the other day, you have some videos that are like hundreds of thousands of views. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing,
Yeah.
right? Um Talk about what you're doing so people can kinda get, an understanding of the digital products. So
Yep.
we haven't touched on that, but you've built things like travel guides and you've
Mhm.
built retreats. Talk about the business model that you've been able to do from talking about your experiences with Africa and those type of things.
Yeah, so you talked about borrowing people's belief system. I was an advocate for that, watching The Secret years ago, and it's
Mm.
just something that used to play in the background while I was cleaning. I would just listen to these people talk about manifestation, law of attraction, and visualization. So I've been borrowing people's belief systems and I've been borrowing people's business models. So, like, when I started, sharing on YouTube, I also became a student of that.
Mhm.
And I've always been in that energy of like personal and professional development. But I am deeply intentional and invested in that as I'm literally experiencing transformation in my life. So I just started to, what are other people doing? I started with the book bolt, journal selling on Amazon, made a couple sales, was like, oh, wow, okay. Digital products is really a thing. What were people asking me all the time? Where should I stay? What is a recommended neighborhood? What airline did you fly? What are the restaurants? So people started asking me the same things. I put it in a product and I put it online. And I remember asking a friend, this is also not that people can only envision things as far as their journey has taken them sometimes, right? If we're not borrowing other people's belief systems. So I had a cousin who is a travel agent. And I asked her, I'm like, do you think people would buy these? She's like, no, you just go on a TripAdvisor. Somebody can do the same thing, build their own itinerary for free. Well, 135 travel guides later, I'm just selling those passively in my sleep.
Yeah.
And I update them and I sell them based on where I've traveled to Cape Town, Nairobi, Mombasa, Arusha, Zanzibar, Durban. Yeah. And every time I go somewhere, it's something that I build. I build once and I put it out there. So I've sold about I'll round up 150 of those and also built those into added value for my virtual conferences,
Yeah.
which have been amazing, where I teach people with the support of other people that have done it, right? You can travel, you can move, you can do business in these countries, and not don't take my word for it. Here are other people that have done it, to also share with you their experience. So
Yeah.
some that are married couples, some that are single people, some that are married with no children, so that you get a diverse view of people that have had positive experiences that are telling you tactical, tangible tools that you can walk away from this virtual conference. So those have been amazing because I've been able to have hundreds of people from around the world sitting at my laptop just talking about my experience and bringing my friends along the way. So after that first virtual conference, I was like, yo, this this is it. Like, I can really teach people and people value
Yeah.
that experience. And so I do have some one-on-ones that I've done, with people that have a desire to move. And those have been amazing. I met a client the other day and just hearing how impactful I've been in their experience has been very, yeah, it's just been very filling. Like, it just abundance of gratitude, right? Because I just started by sharing my journey, wanting to tell other people that they could do it too. So the fact that people are actually listening and they're actually having that experience is something you don't realize you're capable of until you feel the fear and you do it anyway. So
Feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what people have to understand. You feel the fear and it's gonna be there.
You
You're
do
not,
it
is you do it anyway.
you do it anyway. So it's turned into the digital downloads, the virtual conferences, working with an attorney here. I think that's the number one thing as a foreigner. You're coming abroad, you need an attorney. That's the number one tool. And because of that, I've been able to forge partnerships with attorneys, which is really important, but also went into business with my attorney here. And we've launched a attorney real estate law firm called Skyline Attorney Realtors, where we sell
Well,
luxury properties, luxury real estate to international investors with tax strategy and estate planning to maximize their wealth and protect it at the same time. So, yeah, I'm just I'm just doing it.
you're doing the thing.
I'm doing everything that I was terrified of, and just trusting that it's working out in my favor.
No, it is working out.
Yeah.
And what you said, I call it the success stacking. A lot of people ask me what success stacking is. Success stacking is when you face one fear and you get over this fear of, and you push aside, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time, or whatever belief that people have and
Yeah.
excuse they make. When you push those aside, you then go after this one area, and then you start to have some success in that area. But then because of this, you start to stack successes, because then opportunities flourish from this area, and then you have this opportunity and this opportunity. But most people never make it to this first opportunity
Yeah.
because they're afraid. They
Yeah.
never take the risk on the first opportunity. Cause like my mentor, who, shout out to my mentor Mark, who helped me, when I was starting. I didn't have any idea
Hmm.
about how to start a software company, right? Or a tech company. Didn't go to college, no idea, right? A lot of the people who look like me didn't even have tech experience. I was like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And then he took a risk, and he said, do you want to do this? I flew to a whole nother state, right?
Mhm.
Took the opportunity, worked my butt off, which is what a lot of people sometimes miss these
Mhm.
days, like don't want to work and put in the work.
Yeah.
And I did whatever it took.
Yeah.
Till this day, we're friends because I never burnt that bridge, because I did what I said I was going to do. And now we have Maestro because of him. And he's actually a user on Maestro.
Wow.
And it's crazy how that works, right? So
Absolutely, Steve.
success stacking. I love
And
success
it's
stacking.
so interesting because even, shout out to you and what you've built. But it was like it's really trusting that and not knowing really how it's gonna work, but trusting because one of the things that I even said my mission was I wanted to impact the lives of 10 million Africans through entrepreneurship. I had no idea
I love that.
how I was gonna be able to do it. Now with, this latest project with the freedom formula of teaching people how to live life where they're working less,
To do
earning
you.
more. Yeah, like I'm literally just teaching that, but this is not something that only people in America need. Like we all need this. We all have an opportunity to have access to this. And had you not been obedient and trusted the calling, right? And the assignment on your life to say, I'm going to take this hard thing, have no idea how I'm going to build it, who I'm going to build it with. And then I'm also going to like reach out to this person, which luckily we were divinely connected through your assistant. It's like feeding your vision, your plan, your path while simultaneously feeding mine as well.
I love that.
So it's just, and and I know for so many people it could sound like, but I am barely getting by. Like I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent next month. I don't
Yeah.
know how I'm gonna feed these kids.
Uh-huh.
I'm stressed out and I'm barely surviving.
Yeah.
And this seems so abstract and it seems so far-fetched, but I want to let everyone know like I was there as well. I may have, I had worked through some money challenges a bit earlier on, so that wasn't the issue, but I didn't know if the next day, like if I was even going to make it to the next day.
Yeah.
I was so burnt out, so stressed out, so somewhat hopeless. But if you have any desire and or glimmer of a desire in your heart, in your spirit, in your mind that tells you that there's something more for you, lean into that and relentlessly pursue it. Because even though you don't have the vision, whether you believe in God, the universe, Allah, like the Most High, if whatever you believe in, that support system will It will, like, lift you up
Lift
as
you up.
long as you decide that you are worthy enough to have that.
Wow.
And so,
That you are worthy enough is the key, though.
yeah, you have to know that
Even if you fake that I'm worthy. Yes.
even if you fake it and you
Sometimes you
from
gotta fake
someone
it.
else's belief system.
Yeah, you have to sometimes until you really believe in yourself enough to take risks, you have to sometimes say, "Okay, if that person did it, then I have the same belief system and I can do it." So right now, this has been an amazing. I love this. I had to have you on because, of course, we both in SA for right now.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm on my way to Kenya, and you'll be in Tanzania, and I'm going to Tanzania, y'all. Just to let y'all know, I got
I
busy now, so I gotta go to
You're
Tanzania.
welcome, yes.
But you're working on a project right now.
Yeah.
So to show people what we've talked about, talk a little bit about that, plug it a little bit, because I think especially
Yeah.
it's going to be a free challenge that
Mhm.
you're working on to help people with the freedom formula. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the freedom formula is to do exactly that. I mean, a lot of this is mindset, right? So please borrow my belief system in that, knowing that you are worthy. If you feel this calling, like, know that you're worthy to have that thing.
Mm,
Know. Don't believe, don't think, like, you have to know. And we're going to do a lot of work through that. So dispelling some of these limited belief systems that aren't your fault, that you've just adopted, you've pulled from society, your parents, your loved ones, well intentioned, but working through that and then actually taking away some really big action items on how you can live a life with location independence and time freedom so that you can really live a life that is meaningful for you, your family. You can work less, you can travel more, earn more money, spend less time doing the things that bring you joy with the people that you love. So whether you're a creator, because we all are, you are giving advice to people every day for free. And that's okay. You don't have to get paid for everything, but you can essentially live, I've learned, by sharing your experience. People are paying people less experienced, less smart than you,
yeah,
um, to be able to do that. And yeah, I want everybody to join the challenge Freedom Formula. It's gonna be me and a couple of my friends, even you. You'll come in, I'm sitting there, no expertise. Yeah, and
yeah, there.
other friends that have achieved this. And we're not just gonna, give you foo-foo and like give you some, inspirational words. We're going to do that too, but you're going to walk away with some tangible tools on how to like understand how much it's going to cost you to move abroad based on your current lifestyle, but then also recognizing that you're probably not going to spend as much as you were in your current country if you're in the West. And then how you too can start earning passively so that you can live more abundantly, which is all of our birthright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't know that. They don't believe, especially even if they're in. Even I told a guy the other day, he was like, "Oh, I got in the Uber," and he was like, he found out, he's like, "Oh, you're from America." He's like, "I would die to go to America." And I said, "Listen to me. You don't even know that you're living in a country of abundance because there's people there that would love to live here. The thing that you're missing is creating your own economy,
yep,
creating your own world, being attached to someone else's vision who has created something amazing,
yep,
right? And when you understand how that works, then you realize that wherever country you're in, you're already in abundance. And sometimes you want to build it up, and then like we did, it took years to do that, um, to get there.
yep.
And one other thing too is love the word freedom because I think a lot of people don't understand that. Um, they're not trying to chase these pieces of paper with these presidents that we've never met before,
Mhm.
right? They really want freedom,
Yep,
right? They want to be able to have choices, they want to be able to have freedom, and they want to be fulfilled, right? And you can
yep.
do that in a position that you're in working, or you can do that, with your own. So but, I'm excited for your challenge. I'm excited that you came on,
Thank you for
to
having me.
definitely this is gonna inspire, and if you're watching this, make sure that you share this out to someone who this can also inspire and help, shift their paradigm. This is all about paradigm shifts,
Yes,
and all it takes is a few paradigm shifts to change your life. So,
absolutely.
just make sure you share this out, like it. You'll see all the, way to follow Ashley in the description of this video. Make sure you join the Freedom Challenge. So,
Yeah, it will cost you nothing, but you will gain everything. An entirely new perspective, an entirely new blueprint.
absolutely.
Yeah, an entirely new opportunity for the life that you desire.
I
So
love it.
jump on this.
Join
Will not regret it.
join us,
Yeah.
and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.